So I'm going to do something different today. I am going to spend most of my Dharma talk reading from a paper that I wrote back in 1987, almost 37 years ago to the day. And this paper was written for a graduate class entitled Existential and Buddhist Psychology. A bit of background. I'd been a meditation teacher before I went back to graduate school to become a psychotherapist. And I had the privilege or the good fortune to be able to write my own degree program and later use this degree program to get licensed as a psychotherapist, despite this being a very non-traditional program I wrote. But back in 1986, when I was designing this graduate program, I searched for professors who integrated Buddhism with psychotherapy. There were not very many back then. But I found John Welwood through a book he wrote and liked what he had written so much that I moved to San Francisco to study with him. He was part of the Shambhala world, and his views reflected that. He was a good teacher, and I'm glad that I moved to San Francisco and enrolled in California Institute of Integral Studies to study under him. Sadly, he died in 2019, though he lives on in many of a few of his teachings anyway. One of the most notable one is he was the one who coined the term spiritual bypassing. More on that later. Back then, back in the 1980s, probably after that, I thought I was required to take on the views of my teachers, both in terms of Buddhism and also in terms of conducting psychotherapy and so much more. That's how I thought we learned. And I did learn that way. So I took on his views, much as I think he took on the views of the Shambhala tradition. And the primary view was that underneath everything is this thing called the ground of being, also called sometimes basic goodness or basic sanity, which I think is very close to, or maybe the same as, true nature. And that's what we're teaching on this week. And by the way, it was useful to have this view of basic sanity as I started out in my career and counseled some deeply disturbed people. It's useful now, too. Though I no longer have many or some of the same views I had when I wrote this paper that I submitted to John Welwood back on January 28th, 1987. Though I still value the paper and the views expressed. My views have changed. I like to believe they're developed, but I don't know about that. What I know is they resonate now. They fit for the path I'm on now. As this views in this paper really resonated back then, I remember how much they did. So I'm going to read this paper in hopes that it prompts you to resonate with your own views on the topic and possibly how they have changed over time. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to read this paper, so we'll see how it goes. The earth, the ground I walk on, is an apt metaphor, or perhaps the material aspect of the ground of being. The earth non-discriminately holds up all people, murderers and saints alike. The earth indiscriminately supports the life of all animals, fleas and thoroughbred horses alike. The earth supports the root system and gives life, supporting nutrients to all vegetation, weeds and the Bodhi tree alike. The earth offers basic goodness to all beings. We do not earn it. I recently moved to the Bay Area. My friends warned me, "Are you sure you want to live there? There might be an earthquake. Perhaps the ground of being won't support me. Living on top of the earth feels so solid and secure, but is it?" By the way, I was there for the big one in San Francisco. That's not in the paper because I don't know that yet. Anyway, back to the paper. I'm vulnerable to earthquakes and other cataclysms of the earth. The earth might swallow me up. In fact, it will one day. The question is, what do I do in the face of this danger? First, I grow afraid, and then what? At times, my mind freezes in denial. No, an earthquake could never happen. They're wrong. Or, I just will not live in the Bay Area for long. I will leave before the earthquake and be safe. The challenge is to allow myself to be vulnerable in this truth of uncertainty, the fear of no earth, the fear of my personal death, the fear of non-existence. I see how much I want the earth to be solid because that supports the illusion of my own solidity. Can I allow myself the experience of insubstantiality? Existentialism freed consciousness of the restraint of concepts and brought us to the edge of the unknown. It showed us the possibility of the metaphorical earthquake. It left us trembling, filled with anxiety. It offered an individual solution, each of us left to create his or her own meaning in an inherently meaningless world, and to heroically grapple it with our own anxiety. Buddhism took consciousness one step further by revealing that underneath this anxiety and uncertainty, meditation shows me how to ride the waves of fear that arise in the face of uncertainty and insubstantiality. I know from observing my experience that in each wave in its own time crashes upon the shoreline and my mind becomes focused elsewhere. The fear passes. Meditation teaches me to contact the always present still water beneath the wave, even while I'm riding the waves of fear. Although water is not solid, which I imagine to be the only safety, it consistently holds me up. Through meditation, I know for fleeting moments the basic goodness that will not get destroyed in the earthquake, that which is constant beneath the chaos of continual change. These moments of basic goodness are so nourishing that they lead me to my meditation pillow each day. And it was a pillow back then, by the way. Still, basic sanity or goodness is difficult for me to trust. I was brought up with the sharp awareness of the dangers and difficulties of life. I intimately understood the first noble truth of Buddhism, the truth of unsatisfactoriness and suffering. I turned to meditation to experience the third noble truth as a way to realize my true nature and the basic goodness of life. The challenge is to expand my sense of self to where I am so big that I include the earthquake itself. The life process, like the earth and the sea, does not discriminate among its manifestations. It does not ultimately honor my separateness. It asks the same understanding of me. In return, it offers the gift of connection and basic sanity. So that's the end of the paper. And I guess I feel like it was my best expressed version of my views back then. And so I invite you to sit and meditate, or lie and meditate, and see what views come to you. We